Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show. We have an epidemic that's spreading across America that is the #1 wealth killer by far for the average middle-class person, and that's the fact that car ownership is absolutely getting out of control. It's insane that the average price of a new vehicle these days is about $50,000. So let's break this down a little bit further, because CNBC did an entire deep dive into exactly why car ownership is so absurdly expensive, and I want to talk about it as soon as we hit the like button. And subscribe if you haven't done that already. Helps the entire channel, and as a thank you for doing that, I'll do my best to respond to as many comments as possible. So thanks so much, and now let's begin.
A car is one of the biggest purchases a person will make in their lifetime. But unlike a house, a car starts losing value right away.
So the problem is that these last few years screwed with people's mentalities. All of a sudden, it became common practice to go and buy a used car over asking, drive it for a year, and then all of a sudden it's worth more money than what you paid. That doesn't make any sense. Or for a new car, a brand new car, to all of a sudden be bought and then flipped 6 months later for more than the price that it cost new. And there's this shortage, right? It's shortage because of chips. They couldn't manufacture cars enough. Demand went through the roof. People kept their vehicles for longer. There's a shortage of supply. And that meant that auto prices just kept going higher. Well, guess what? It's not normal. So now the fact that people are losing money on cars is like this absurd thing. Like, people have such short-term memory for things that they don't remember. That 5 years ago, it was absurd. It just wasn't normal for a car to ever make money. Why? They just make a new one, and the new one's better, and cars would lose 10 to 15% the moment you drive it off a lot. That is now coming back to fruition, because that's the way it always has been. It always will be.
The massive used car market makes up somewhere around 40 million sales each year, more than double the sales of new cars. But in 2020, something strange started happening, turning the car market upside down.
You know, I remember the days when I would look at cars, because I'm always a car person, and I also just need a car to drive around. And I would look at cars that have taken their mass depreciation up front, usually about 7 years in, and then hold their value for the most part. And there are so many cars out there that I thought, okay, a 7-year-old Toyota Prius with 24,000 miles on it, it's probably going to be worth about the price I paid for it 2 years later, if I put, 30,000 miles on it. So for the most part, there are cars that you lose less money on. You're still going to lose some money on, but you kind of mitigate that. Certain cars like a used G-Wagon, yeah, maintenance is expensive, but like a 2007 Mercedes G-Wagon, you hold it for 2 years, as long as it doesn't have any major repairs, probably going to be worth almost what you paid for it. A Lotus Elise is a great example. I bought a Lotus Elise for $30,000, drove it for 2 years, and I sold it for $30,000. Didn't make money on it, but I didn't lose anything either. Same thing with the Lotus Exige. Bought a Lotus Exige for $50,000, drove it 2 years, maybe 3 years actually, and sold it for $50,000. So you got like a free car basically. But those by and large aren't that common. They're very specific vehicles. And usually when you go and buy a car, you just want to minimize the downside. And that is buying a used car, about 5 to 7 years old, give or take, that's reliable, that has, medium mileage, anywhere between 20 to 35,000 on the clock, and just drive it, preferably until the wheels fall off. That's it. It's as simple as it could be.
In the post-pandemic world, there are fewer cars to go around, and prices for both new and used vehicles are still high. That is unlikely to change for a while.
Yeah, it's quickly shifting now. You look at a lot of the auction websites, and you just see the prices going down and down and down and down every single week. Now, it's not a lot, unless you're looking at the Tesla Cybertruck, in which case, you see like $10,000 decreases every single week in terms of what they're getting as they make more Cybertrucks, and demand kind of, shrinks a bit. But overall, for most cars, demand is going down every single week. Prices are coming down a little bit. And so I tend to think if you have a car right now, just wait. Just wait. There's no rush. You're only going to make more cars. You'll find some great deals. EVs are a great example of this. You could find a 2016 Tesla Model S for like 20 grand now. It's wild. $20,000 Tesla Model S. 2016, it's like you could get some great deals if you're out there right now for electric vehicles.
Cars lose about 10% of their value as soon as you drive them off the lot. There are a few reasons for this.
One is that we like new cars. We just like being in a brand new car.
I don't get that whole appeal. It's like, yeah, you drive it down the lot, it's got 100 miles on it, and all of a sudden it's a used car. It's a new car. Come on. Anything under like 5,000 miles, for the most part, is a new car. That's a new car. It still got the new smell to it. As long as someone takes care of the car, it's new. To me, a new car is anything like in the last few years. That's a new car.
That car you bought seems to drop by 10% in value the moment you drive it off the lot. What is actually happening is that the market is pricing in the probability you received a 10% discount or incentive on that vehicle, even if you didn't.
Yeah, it depends, I guess, how good you are negotiating with the dealer, right? Or if you shop around. I can't stand shopping around at car dealerships. But if you do that, you might be able to save some money doing that.
If you have a car and it's like 3 days old or 3 months old and you sell it, why would you do that if the car was a good car? You're probably doing it because the car is a lemon.
I would just think that if someone's selling a car, I guess in this market, I always think they're flipping it. Always flipping it. But you know what? Sellers always have stories of moving, going through divorce, life changes, health scares. There's a whole bunch of reasons why sellers sell cars. Yeah, as long as you get a pre-purchase inspection, I feel like that should absolve most of the issues. Not all of them, but like a good chunk of them.
If you're lucky enough to buy it new, you might actually sell it for profit. Some OEMs are trying to fight that. I think Tesla just had in their agreement, and they just pull it back again. So you cannot resell their Cybertruck for a year.
Yeah, everyone's selling the Cybertruck now. They've given up on that. Once you sell one, the lid's blowing off, everyone's going to pour in, and you're not going to have Tesla going after like 500 different lawsuits for trying to pursue people selling your Cybertruck and flipping it. And at this point, there's no more market for flippers of the Cybertruck. You're going to lose money in the Cybertruck. Maybe there's still some room for a Cyber Beast. Maybe, just because I don't see that many. But for the most part, the Foundation Series Cybertruck right now, bring a trailer, the highest bid was $91,000 for a car with an MSRP of $102,000. That means that if you're in a state like California, you're losing about $20,000 on that car when you account for sales tax. You got to think, $102,000, 10% sales tax, you're in $112,000 on that car, the highest bid being $91,000. You're going to lose a lot of money. No more flippers anymore for the Cybertruck, unless they absolutely have to sell it, in which case, why take ownership of the car when you're just going to drive it 50 miles and try to sell it? That doesn't make any sense. Just don't get the car.
It's still your economy 101. Strong demand, short supply, prices went up. It was just to the extreme that we've never seen before.
That was just luck, though. That was right place, right time. People's, they get used to it. That's the problem, is that for a lot of people, if something continues for like a year, all of a sudden that cements the foundation of like, this is what used car values should be doing. This is normal. It's not normal. It's not always going to be like this. Car values are going to go down. It's going to be a normal market eventually. When is that going to happen? I don't know. Cars are declining. It's just not declining as quickly as it used to. That's really all it is at this point.
A lot of the goods and materials that go into producing a car are still sitting at high levels. Even though inflation is coming down, we're not in a period of deflation. It's highly unlikely that we're going to go back to having lower car values.
Yeah, eventually I think it's going to happen. The issue is that there's so much money printed into the economy that the cost of everything has gone up. Like labor's gone up, materials gone up, insurances have gone up. Like everything has gone up. So because of that, it's raised the floor for what cars should be worth. And that's across the board. So yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more now. What is it going to normalize? I'm not sure.
More than 100 million Americans have an auto loan, and auto loan debt in the U.S. is currently at $1.5 trillion.
It's a huge problem for auto loan debt, by the way. Now they're having loans where you could do like 144-month auto loans. Like, why would you do that? A 96-month auto loan at 8%. Why? What point? And it's such a bad financial decision that I think it should only be reserved for cases where like you need a work truck and there's no other option. And like that one work truck is going to make you more money than what you're paying out in interest. And you get the payment low enough just to be able to make more money with it. But hopefully that should be a short-term thing and you pay down the loan as quickly as possible. But the fact is, auto loan companies are largely unregulated. They could issue loans freely without checking documentation. People could lie on their reports, get the loan. Maybe they're not qualified for it. auto companies could basically finance up to like 120% of the car's value when you account for like sales tax and registration and like other fees. So you had this larger loan on a car that's depreciating in value. People are underwater in these car loans. What are they going to do if they can't afford? They're just going to walk away from the payment. So we'll see. We've been calling for these auto loan defaults for a long time. We haven't quite seen it to the degree the media's kind of blown it out to be, but it's there.
By the time the loan is paid off, he'll have paid nearly $5,000 in interest. And then there's a caveat. Until you fully pay back the loan, the lender holds the title and can repossess the car at any time if you fall behind on your payments.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. You're paying down the loan over time. You have equity in the car. So if you're truly behind on your payments and your car's going to get repossessed, it makes sense to sell the car, pay back the loan, pocket the difference, get a cheaper car. Because if you get a 96-month loan and you pay it off for 90 months, technically the bank still has the lien on the car. But if you could sell the car for more than what that remaining balance is, sell the car. Like, there should be no reason, if you have equity in a car, to ever let it get repossessed like this. Possessed. Yeah, your cars get possessed. Like the Exorcist. You gotta, depossess the car. Oh, I can't get my words straight today.
I'm paying a ton of money right now for a car that I don't really need. I've been struggling to sell it. If I were to sell it today, it would probably be a $10,000 to $15,000 loss.
Yeah, but that's why they lock you in on these payments. How do you get out of a $10,000 to $15,000 loss if you can't make the payment? The only thing you could reasonably do is either come up with the money, so you pay money to get rid of your car. But if you can't do that, do you just walk away from the car and take the hit on the credit? Probably. Probably that's what a lot of people are going to end up doing if they can't afford the car. Same thing with housing. We went through the same thing in the housing market in 2008. People couldn't make the payments. And when they owe $500,000 on a home that's worth $200,000, what are they going to do? They're going to walk away from it, give it back to the bank, here are the keys, done. Screw up the credit for a little bit, but that saves you $300,000.
Let's say, for example, Toyota Finance says that they want the minimum interest rate to be 7%. The dealer can bump it up to 9%, and the consumer never knows about that transaction.
Yes, I completely agree with this. This is something where the dealer should be completely upfront with how much they are making on that purchase. But then again, if they disclose that, then the buyer could just say, well, the minimum's 7, so I just want to pay the 7. Or just like a 7.1, so you make something, otherwise I'm walking. So it kind of gets rid of some of their incentive, or at least put a cap on it or something like that. But just them being able to make up a number and say, well, that's the best we could do, it's a bit shady.
In the meantime, consumer advocates say more programs are needed to protect Americans buying cars, and that increasing transparency is key.
What I think that is really just research. You got to do your own research when you're buying an automobile. Don't just go out and buy the first car you see at the first dealership. You got to shop around. You got to do some basic research on what's a good interest rate. You got to shop around that loan. Preferably go to a credit union. A PenFed is really good for used cars. Find the best lender for used car financing. Come with your financing already in hand, and then you can negotiate from there. Know what's a good interest rate. Know your budget. I would say just like 2 hours. 2 hours of your day would be really well spent just doing those things, getting pre-approved, going in with a number. There's so many things that you could do ahead of time that would completely just dismantle any of these arguments. Yes, the auto financing could absolutely be predatory, but just coming with knowledge like that ahead of time, pre-approved, would make most of this a moot point.
If you have the means, drive to a second, third, or maybe fourth dealer to compare rates and terms. And stay away from buy here, pay here dealers. They typically offer the highest interest rates, sometimes up to 20%.
Oh yeah, buy here, pay here is one of the biggest, just rip-offs in most cases, because the people that are going to buy here, pay here, they just want to get a car. They don't care. They're not savvy enough to do much research on their own. They don't know to do the research. They don't care. Because of that, these dealerships could often pay or charge whatever they want to. People go along with it. Sometimes they'll hold their own loans, which basically means the buy here, pay here might have like an investor or whatever just funding these loans, and they could do like weekly payments or something like that. So as soon as you fall behind, they can repossess the car. And I think a lot of times that can maybe be their business model.
For the full calendar year 2023, the average repairable estimate was $4,721. Mandel says that number will continue to increase as the data matures over the next 3 to 4 months.
That is insanely expensive. My guess is it's probably just materials are going up, labor is going up. Because of that, insurance costs are going up, overhead's going up, and all that's getting passed back onto the consumer in some way or another. So that's my assumption from all of this. But spending $4,700 on car maintenance, my gosh. You know, the thing is, I've had the Tesla Model 3 since 2019. No maintenance. Nothing. Just replace the windshield wiper fluid every month. That's it. Zero maintenance whatsoever. That car has been bulletproof. The best purchase I ever made. Not to advocate, not to say everyone should go buy a Tesla, but there's so many advantages if you qualify for the discounts right now. I've had zero issues with mine at all. It's been a fantastic car.
Vehicles are heavier when they're getting into crashes, and or they are going faster when they get into crashes. You're going to have more energy in the crash. More energy in the crash means more damage to the vehicle. More damage to the vehicle, higher repair costs.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. Okay, I could understand that, especially with electric vehicles. You go so quick, so fast, and you have no idea how quickly you're going. But I can understand that. And the heavier bit, too. More SUVs, and look at the Cybertruck. My gosh. You don't want to get hit by that.
The EV industry it's in a nascent stage, so it's early. We're doing lots of learning. I think once it settles down and there's lots of learning that occurs in the dealerships, in the manufacturing plants, in the design houses, I think EVs are going to be a really terrific proposition for people long term.
So let me know what you guys think of all of this down below in the comments section. I'll do my best to read as many comments as I can. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time.